Good morning. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, and I'm here today with some week of special surprises. One of the things I want to share with all of you is the very first book that my book club, the Pulpwood Queens, ever read 20 years ago was Divine Secrets of the Ya-Ya Sisterhood. That book about these women and their friendships from growing up together through the years was so important to me to pick, and I want to tell you the story. So I'm going to read from you from my third edition of my book, The Pulpwood Queens Tiara-Wearing Book Sharing Guide to Life. And I'm going to have to put on my readers so that I can read this for you. But for all of you that do not know the story of my book club, this is to share you. Chapter 7, The Pulpwood Queens of East Texas, where tiaras are mandatory and reading good books is the rule. I recommended books to my customers at my shop. You see, I used to own the only hair salon bookstore in the country called Beauty in the Book. They kept coming back to ask for more. That was all the encouragement I needed. I decided I needed to start a book club. I told all my clients, my friends and family that I was going to start a book club and it was going to be different. Forget thinking outside of the box. There was no box. I was throwing out all the rules except one. It was going to be fun. 6 brave women showed up for that first meeting. I will tell you, they were all complete strangers. I had put out a fruit and cheese platter, and after I got everyone settled into the comfy chairs in my shop, I gave them a glass of wine and began pitching my idea. I explained, this is not going to be your mother's book club. Everyone perked up a little bit. We will be called the Pulpwood Queens of East Texas, as pulpwood is the industry in this area. Besides, pulpwood is made into paper, and paper is made into books, but we will not be reading pulp fiction. Among the women, a few titters were heard over the tinkling of their glasses. We will crown ourselves the beauty within queens, as we are readers. We're not fading Southern belles. And who better than a salon professional to show that beauty, real beauty, comes from within. I don't care how dolled up you are. Our motto shall be, where tiaras are mandatory and reading good books is the rule. I could see a deer in the headlights look on their faces. I could sense that the tiara thing might have scared them a bit. But I plunged ahead with my spill while simultaneously pouring more wine and serving cheeks. We will read one book a month. Our first selection will be The Divine Secrets of the Ya-Ya Sisterhood by Rebecca Wells, and I will provide the book club questions. We're going to read books that don't feel like homework, ones that are going to entertain, educate, and enlighten us. We will have good food and drink, and we will leave our diets at the door. Did I say there were no rules? Rules are to be broken for sure, but one must stay in place. You must wear a tiara, and you must read the book of the month. Our sole mission is to promote literacy and get America reading. I jumped up to pour more wine. It was quiet for a minute, and as I looked around the room to see the 6 nervous smiles, there is a silent issue about women wearing a tiara. No one would dare say this, but most women don't feel they are worthy of wearing one. Only beauty queens should wear tiaras, for goodness sake, and here I have empowered these women to become queens. I could tell they were hesitant. I had just given these proper Southern ladies permission to cut loose, and it was obvious they were not at all sure what to make of it. Since I am partial to jewel tones, as well as leopard prints, which I have been collecting for years, I decided it would be fun to make both requirements for our meetings. What little girl hasn't dreamed of wearing a tiara? I began thinking about those tiaras and about how some of us had not worn one since our high school proms, if we wore them at all, or how we watched them being placed on the heads of other girls who were crowned homecoming queen, or Miss Texas, or Miss America, or even Miss Universe, whatever. I thought, don't all of us girls deserve to wear a crown? Aren't we all queens? You bet we are. When my speech was over and we all started talking, everyone seemed to relax a bit. Then before I knew it was time for everyone to leave. I announced the time and date of the next meeting, and everyone headed out to their cars and their homes. I honestly wasn't sure if they would show up again. When the next meeting time rolled around, I cleaned my beauty shop, had it ready to perfection. I prepared enough food for an army of thirsty and starving soldiers. No use expecting the worst, I told myself when 7 o'clock was mere minutes away. There was no sign of anyone coming. I kept peeking out the window blinds to watch for book club attendees, and it was a little touch and go there for a while because I didn't see any. Then suddenly, there came not one, then two, then a whole parade of headlights streaming down the blacktop road and pulling up in front of my house. I watched open mouth as at exactly 7 o'clock, all these women parked in their cars, got out with tiaras in place and casseroles in hand. That night, 35 women showed up. Way too many to fit downstairs. Never mind that I had prepared food for only a fraction of this group. I made a decision. Ladies, I announced, we're going upstairs. Then with everyone talking at once, I led them upstairs out of my perfectly presented Beauty in the Bookshop to my home that was pure chaos. Dishes in the sink, clothes piled on the dining room table to be folded, books piled on the stairs and on top of the piano. Putting on my housekeeping blinders, I popped the cork on the wine. And at that moment, I became the fearless leader of the Pulpwood Queens of East Texas. I had no earthly idea what I had started. And I'm sorry if I get a little bit glimpse from this reading, but that momentous occasion changed the trajectory of my entire life. And that's why I wanted to share my story with you. I don't know how many of you have read my book, but I sure hope you do. Now let me continue. I had always wanted to be in a book club. When I was a busy sales rep, my schedules wouldn't allow for it, but I visited and worked with many reading groups and book clubs. And I'd also developed some ideas about how I wanted my book club to be. I wanted it to be fun. I didn't want it to be stuck up and exclusive. And I have to tell you a story that I did not put in the book. But when I first started my Pulpwood Queens book club, the local book club invited me to join their book club. And I was so excited because I was off the road being book sales rep. And while my kids were in school, they were going to have this book club meeting. So I went. It was in this beautiful, beautiful, historic, palatial, historic home. It was about the third and I was so excited because they had read a book. I think it was Sue Monk Kid's first book, The Secret Life of Bees. And I was so excited. And we had this beautifully chef-prepared 4-course luncheon. They'd even done hand-beaded napkin rings with our initials. I was in my element. I was so excited. And so after lunch, we went into the front parlor and sat down to have cordials as we discussed the book. And at the end of the discussion, I immediately blurted out my Kansas self, blurted out, because that's where I grew up. Oh my gosh, I cannot hardly wait for the second Tuesday of next month. What are we going to be reading? And the Pulpwood Queen, who was the hostess for the meeting, jumped up. Everybody was looking at her, and she was a little bitty thing. And she pulled me out to the gallery of her beautiful home, and she whispered to me, she said, Kathy, I don't know how to tell you this, but we didn't invite you to be a guest. I mean, to be a member. We invited you to be a guest. She goes, unless somebody dies or moves away, we can only have 8 in our book club because that's all that fits around the table. Well, I was so shocked and embarrassed. I really didn't know what to do. So I went back into the room, and when I sat down, I noticed that nobody would make eye contact with me. So I decided that maybe I better get out of here. So I excused myself with my children are about to get out of school. So as I left, I drove home and I thought, who made up that rule that only 8 can fit around a book club table? I mean, I'm telling you, I was the 9th one there, and we all fit. I didn't say anything at the time because I was just getting started with my new business, and I respected and admired these women so much. It was just, I call it the help moment. You remember when Jessica Chastain brought the pie to the meeting and everybody dropped to the floor because they didn't want her to know that they were having a meeting without her. I felt exactly like that moment in Catherine Stoggett's The Help. It was really, I think it's one of those moments that changed everything for me because that's when I decided to start a book club. So let me continue.
Is fructose good for you? That answer
so
is unfortunately
the first turnoff is associated with reading in school and how as it's like being like homework. With being forced to read books that you may or may not like or be able to relate to. The second people don't like to read is the aura of elitism that surrounds reading, because some people insist on making a distinction for books that are choose your adjective, worthwhile, literary, quality, or important. But that is just not me. I want a story that engages me in such a manner that I cannot put the book down. I also did not want my book club to be exclusive. So the Pulpwood Queens is an equal opportunity book club all the way. I did not want to be my book club to be like the one George Moore, the English philosopher, must have had in mind when he said, a literary movement consists of 5 or 6 people who live in the same town and hate each other cordially. I always tell everybody that anyone can join regardless of race, color, age, gender, and whether or not you've had cosmetic enhancements or color-treated hair. Yes, let's face it. Right now, a book club is a luxury these days, with time being of the essence. If you're going to take time to be in one, then why shouldn't you have a good time? And that's exactly why I started my Pulpwood Queen online book club, because we were meeting in person. I thought, how could we expand? Well, some people are so busy. I thought if we started an online book club with the Pulpwood Queen Academy, that we would do that. Little did I know that COVID was coming. But it came, and that book club has just exploded. So I often think of a book I picked up at the New York airport as I was taking my book club on a literary tour of Europe. The book was called Angry Housewives Eating Bonbons, and the name and the cover just jumped out at me from the shelves. Oh, I read the synopsis and I discovered the title came from a book club member's reply when her husband made an unapproving remark about her being in a book club. I could not wait to read this book. In Angry Housewives Eating Bonbons, Lorna Landvik introduces the book club members. They are all neighbors, all very different, and all come to know one another through the book club. Just as the 6 women who first came to join our club did not know one very well. We were brought together because of the books, and are we ever thankful that books introduced us? We women reign as domestic goddesses, juggling our never-ending carpool days with the kids, bringing home the bacon and frying it up in the pan. Between motherhood, marriage, kids, and career, all our time-consuming activities, I sing, we are woman, W-O-M-A-N, and I'll say it again. Women unite. We need to have some girl time. I can't think of a better way than to do that by having a little wine and discussing a great read. Well, today I want to also share with all of you that my book club has partnered with Breathless Wines, which is an award-winning wine that just had a fabulous feature in Forbes magazine, and it just won Winery of the Year. So I was a bit ahead of my time knowing that wine and book clubs go together. But I am thrilled and I am excited to announce to you that this Friday we're going to the Breathless Winery on my blog. So stay tuned and you'll get to meet Sarah and Code and see what they've got going on out in Sonoma, California with Breathless Wines. But also in my book, because it's important that, you know, with our book club meetings that we always have recipes, that I put a recipe in my book. And I think it's so befitting now that we've partnered with Breathless Wines that I share with you. It's in the book, Pulpwood Queen's Lemon Bang Punch. This is for when life hands you a lemon and you want something more satisfying than just plain old lemonade. So the ingredients are 1 bottle of lemonade, 1 bottle of ginger ale, 1 bottle, I'm going to add, of Breathless Wines, lemon slices, and voila, Lemon Bang Punch. So make up a batch for your book club today and have your Pulpwood Queen Lemon Bang Punch. And I have more recipes in my book too. But I want to give you another story that's in my next chapter. And it's about what I'm talking about today. The first book that started everything with the Pulpwood Queens, Rebecca Wells' Divine Secrets of the Ya-Ya Sisterhood. And I call this chapter The Divine Secrets of the Pulpwood Queen Sisterhood, because I was one of the first groups to sign up to become a Ya-Ya chapter when that book came out. And my quote is, friendship is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art, like the universe itself. For God did not need to create. It has no survival value. Rather, it is one of the things which give value to survival. The women and the authors and the men that I've met through my book club have become the most ardent supporters and the best friends I've ever had in my life. And I've had a lot of friends, and I have a lot of friends outside the book club. But I will tell you, the ones that are in my book club, no better friend. They're the ones that took me to the hospital and picked me up. They're ones that held my hand and watched me cry when I went through my divorce. They were the ones when I was dead broke, pooled their money. All the authors pooled their money and my Pulpwood Queens to give me a scholarship to finish college. I went back at 59, and I couldn't have finished without all of my book club members. I cannot thank you enough. So I'm going to share this story about Rebecca Wells. My mother always used to say, who needs friends? Friends cost money. Call it the stubbornness in me, but I proceeded to make as many friends as I possibly could. I've had a lot of friends in my life, both men and women, but isn't it like they always say, men may come and go in your life, but your girlfriends will stick by you thick and thin. And I am not talking about your waist here. Back in my early book selling days, a galley of a first-time writer I found pretty amazing came into my hands. When the book came out, I sold copy after copy. Then all of a sudden, the book went out of print. I called the publisher to inquire when it would be back in print. They informed me that they had decided it had run its course and they wouldn't be printing any more copies. I immediately informed them just how many copies I was selling. They thought that was very nice, but they weren't reprinting. They told me it was a regional book. I asked them, aren't all books set somewhere? To Kill a Mockingbird could be said to be a regional book. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil spent 2 years on the New York Times bestseller list. Tourism in Savannah, Georgia quadrupled. I believe that was considered a regional book too. The man on the phone said that was nice, but it wasn't their region. There is something that gets me going even more than anything else. The underdog. the ones who can't speak for themselves. I was determined to get this book back onto our bookshelves. A sales rep of mine, Katie Stone, stopped by, and I practically knocked her down into a seat to tell her about this now out-of-print book. That good, Kathy? That good, Katie. Can I take this copy with me? She was referring to the one I placed in her hands. Take it, Katie, and show it to the powers that be. A few weeks later, Katie called me and asked, how would you like to have the author in your store? Absolutely, Katie. How did that happen? Well, we bought the paperback rights to her first book, the one you recommended, and then she had a second book finished, so we bought that one too. The first book was Little Altars Everywhere. And that second book, if you still haven't caught on, that second book was Divine Secrets of the Ya-Ya Sisterhood by Rebecca Wells. Folks, the one thing I've learned during this COVID-19 pandemic is that life is changing ever so fast, so greatly. I also know that every minute that I'm on this planet at 64, I want everything that I do to be important. I want to keep on sharing my authors in my books, because authors and their books save me. Please read the book, The Pulpwood Queens Tiara Wearing Book Sharing Guide to Life. I'll be posting the links. And share my new book, which we just celebrated 20 years. Bring out the breathless wine. 20 years of reading together, and we now literally have thousands of members, hundreds of girls running chapters, 800 chapters nationwide, and we are throughout the world. We're an international book club. For 2021, on December 1st, I'm going to be announcing my not only 12 books of the year, but I'm going to be announcing my 12 international books of the year, because we are global and we're diverse, and we want everybody to know that if you want to change the world, you need to educate yourself, enlighten yourself by reading. It's also the best entertainment in the world. But this is an anthology edited by Susan Cushman and published by Brother Mockingbird that has 70 of my Pulpwood Queen authors' stories, my Pulpwood Queen writer friends' stories, and even my cousin. And it's been blurbed by all New York Times bestselling authors, including Paula McLean of The Paris Wife, Lisa Wingate of Before We Were Yours, Jamie Ford of Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet, and also Patty Callahan Henry of Mrs. Lewis, the improbable love story of Joy Davidman and C.S. Lewis. Jonathan Hote of the Pat Conroy Center did the afterword. My wonderful Nashville author friend Robert Hicks did the introduction. Nicole Seitz did the incredible drawing of me sitting under the hairdryer with my stacks of books, which is what I used to do in the shop, just read those books. But we have a lot of books. As you can see behind me, these are my Pulpwood Queen Book Club selections. And I just wanted to share the story of Rebecca Wells. We have picked every single one of her books published by HarperCollins Publishing. I even went to one Pulpwood Queen Book Club meeting on roller skates, because on the cover of her book, there was a young girl in roller skates. I have done more things to promote that story that was made into the wonderful movie by starring Sandra Bullock. And I will tell you, and Ashley Judd, I will tell you that I'm going to share the link so you can watch the film, because there's nothing more fun to me than to discuss the book as compared to the film. I thought they did a wonderful job. It has some of my favorite actors and actresses in the whole wide world in the film. And if you have not seen it, have a girlfriend watch party. Get together. I'm going to be posting this as soon as I get done with this today. And just want you to know that the Pulpwood Queen never gives up. She's the underdog, and she's trying to show that reading is the best entertainment in the world. It's all about the story. Now, order you some Breathless Wines at breathlesswines.com. Our books are paired with their champagnes and their groups. It's absolutely a fabulous wine, and our books are the perfect marriage. So, breathlesswines.com. Thank you all for joining me. Stay tuned for tomorrow because I have lots of surprises this week. It's October. Let's fall back into reading. It's all about the story. So thank you for joining the Pulpwood Queen, and please join my Kathy L. Murphy channel on YouTube because all my videos are going there so you can share with your book club. It's a one-stop shop. Yesterday, I interviewed Carolyn Leavitt, New York Times bestselling author, With or Without You, and I have a wonderful new actor that I'm going to be introducing to you named Advait Guge, and he is lives in Dallas, Texas, and he is one of the stars of the brand new series that you can download the app, The Chosen. It's the story of the life of Jesus, and it's absolutely wonderful, and Vait has done an incredible job playing Joshua, so you'll get to meet him. He's also working on many other things. He's a musical artist, singer, actor, and he records his voice for Audible books. So you're in for a real treat. That will be 6:30 this Saturday night. But in the meantime, get on my page, Kathy L. Murphy, get on my Breathless Bubbles and Book page because I've got a lot going on this week. So take that, COVID. We're getting some work done and we're having a good time while we're at it. Bye-bye, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.